Hello folks, and welcome to this next episode of Astrophotography for Beginners from Wild Astro. I'm going to take you through a slightly more advanced setup today than I used last time we were out with with astrophotography gear. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about this Skywatcher Star Adventurer star tracker, what it is, what it does, and why that's useful to us. So if this is your first time watching Wild Astro, what we do on this channel is wild camping, astrophotography and related gear reviews. If you haven't seen the first part of my astrophotography tutorial, Astrophotography for Beginners, then I suggest you go and have a look at that because it's got a lot of the basic settings that you need to get your camera ready to take pictures of the stars. If you have watched this one and you're rejoining me for this video, thanks very much for joining in. I hope you've hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up and a like on this video, leave me a comment and ask any questions that you want to once you've watched it all the way through. And let's get started. So this is a star tracker. For what it's worth, it's a Skywatcher Star Adventurer, but there are 3 or 4 other brands and models that you could buy to achieve exactly the same thing that I'm going to be sharing with you today. So a star tracker essentially moves your camera. Now, why would you want to move your camera while you're taking a photo? Well, the stars move. If you look up into the sky over a long period during a night, you will notice that the stars move from one place to another. They all rotate around our pole star, which is known as Polaris, or the North Star. The North Star tends to stay in almost exactly the same position each night and every night and throughout the night, and all of the stars rotate in a clockwise direction around that star. What a star tracker does is moves the camera to match the movement of the stars around Polaris. So why would you want to do that? Well, in the first part of this film, we learned that the key to taking great astrophotography pictures is allowing as much light as possible to fall onto your camera's sensor. To do that, we want to keep the shutter open for as long as we possibly can to allow all of that light from the stars to collect on the sensor and be picked up and interpreted by your camera as an image. The longer we leave the shutter open, however, the more chance we've got of the stars changing from points of light into little oblongs of light because they've moved while the shutter's been open. If we can somehow keep the camera in the same position relative to the stars, we can keep the shutter open for a much longer time without the stars becoming elongated. This of course means that we can turn our ISO setting down a little bit, and hopefully that will interpret into a reduced amount of noise in the image. It also means that over the length of time we will pick up much more light from very, very faint stars that you can't see with the naked eye, or even on an exposure up to 20 or 30 seconds. To show you what I mean, my target for tonight is going to be something that many people don't even realise exists in our night sky. I'm going to target a galaxy called Andromeda. Now, Andromeda is a galaxy very similar in size to the Milky Way, our own galaxy, but it's 2.5 million light years away from us here on Earth. Now, you can imagine how faint the light from Andromeda is. To the naked eye, Andromeda looks like a bit of a smudge in the sky. There's very, very little there to see. But if I manage to do tonight what I'm hoping to do, you will see that Andromeda can clearly be seen to have a central core and arms around it spiraling outwards exactly the same as the Milky Way galaxy does. Now, I don't expect my image from tonight to be absolutely perfect because I'm in the middle of Telford. I'm in a light polluted area, so no matter how much starlight I let into my camera, there's also going to be an awful lot of light pollution entering the lens as well. I will try to mitigate that slightly by using a light pollution filter, but it's still not going to be perfect. Right, let me tell you a little bit more about the Skywatcher Star Adventurer. The first thing I will have to do tonight is make sure that it is pointing at Polaris. It's called polar alignment. And obviously the reason I have to do that is because if it's pointing somewhere else and rotating as if it's pointed at Polaris, it's going to exacerbate, it's going to make the movement of the stars worse, more pronounced, and it's going to shorten the exposure time that we can achieve with our camera. So what I have to do first of all, when the North Star becomes visible in the night sky, is I have to point the front of the star tracker here directly at Polaris. Now there's a couple of ways of achieving this accurately. On my phone I have an app, which I'll show you in a moment, that shows me the exact position that Polaris should be on the target, the sites that are inside this that I look through. What I then do is I look through the eyepiece down here and I perfectly align Polaris exactly where it's supposed to be on the image that I see in there. I do that by turning the little knobs on the side here to change my horizontal position, and I turn the one on the front here to alter my vertical position. Now we want the movement of this camera to be as smooth as possible so that there are no shakes, no bumps, no sudden movements as the gearing inside catches up with itself and that sort of thing. So what I've done is I've added a counterweight to this. Now this all comes as part of the kit that you can purchase with the Skywatcher Star Adventurer. And what it does is it balances the weight of the camera and lens up on top here and just makes sure that everything is nice and smooth. You do have to make sure that this is perfectly lined up to balance the weight of the camera. I also have to make sure when I look through the eyepiece here that I have my little lighting rig turned on at the front here, and what that does is illuminates the reticle inside the unit and allows me to see the target area much more clearly and hopefully get that Polestar lined up absolutely right. Other than that, it's pretty much exactly the same setup as I showed you before. The camera is the same Canon EOS 600D. The lens is exactly the same, Sigma 20mm f1.8. The ball head and tripod themselves are the same. Speaking of the tripod, this is the very reason I bought such a heavy, robust tripod. It is absolutely rock solid, okay? This tripod won't let me down, even when using a big, heavy setup like this, and it will keep me perfectly still as well. The only other addition I've made to my kit is this. This is an intervalometer, and what this does is allows me to program a shutter time, a shutter speed into the camera of whatever I want. The internal settings on the camera only allow me to increase my shutter speed to about 30 seconds, whereas this will allow me to open the shutter for anything up to an hour or more if I need to. Now, I won't be going anywhere near an hour tonight. I hopefully will get up to about 3 minutes exposure time without the stars shaking or looking untidy. So we'll try that once everything is focused and ready to go. I'll just show you a quick image of the camera screen so that you can see exactly what the settings are, and I'll tell you a little bit about what I've changed in the settings to account for the fact that we're going to be able to keep the shutter open a lot longer than before. The main difference you're going to notice on the screen here is that I've changed my shutter speed over here to bulb. Bulb simply means that the camera is listening to instructions from the intervalometer rather than from its own internal settings. The other change I've made here is that I'm going to start my ISO tonight at 100. That is the minimum that I can do with this camera. And that's that for the settings. There's really not that much more to it. As I say, if you want to understand a little bit more about how the settings work on a camera for astrophotography, go back and have a look at my first video, Astrophotography for Beginners, and that will explain to you what all of the different settings do and what they mean and how they alter what your camera sees at night. Other than that, come back and join me tonight when I'm going to try and get myself a picture of the Andromeda Galaxy. Okay folks, so sorry for the slightly shoddy ending to this video. I do apologise, it's not normally my style, I know. But thanks ever so much for watching. I hope you like this image that I've managed to capture. I'm pretty pleased with it. It's not the sharpest image in the world and there's quite a lot of noise in the black parts of the sky, but I put that down to my editing more than the actual image captured, because all of the information is there, and I'm sure a fantastic editor, someone better than myself, would be able to make a much better final image than this. Anyway, if you do have any questions, then of course, as always, feel free to pop them in the comments below. Ask me anything you like. Please hit the like button, share this video with your friends and subscribe if you like what you've seen. There are some more tutorials coming up, including a GoPro astrophotography tutorial. So if that's the kind of thing you think might be your style, then please hit that subscribe button, click the bell, and then you'll be alerted to any further videos that I put out. Other than that, folks, thanks ever so much for watching. Huge thank you for keeping me sane during lockdown and helping me get through what's been a difficult period for everyone. This is Richie for Wild Astro, signing off. The first part of my astrophotography tutorial, words are hard.